Welcome back to the Piano Pod, everyone, and welcome to the final month of Season 6. We only have 2 more episodes to go, and what a remarkable season this has been. This season, our theme has been creativity and connection, featuring artists, educators, composers, and visionaries who are using their artistry to connect people, challenge perspectives, and expand what classical and contemporary concert music can look like today. It has also been a season of growth for the show itself, and this past October, we stepped beyond our comfort zone and produced our very first live event at Manus Prep at Steeple Hall, bringing together live performance, on-stage conversation, and community in one space. It was both exhilarating and a huge learning experience, and we hope to continue expanding into more live events and collaborations in the new season ahead. And as we enter June and celebrate Juneteenth month, it has become a tradition on the Piano Pod to dedicate this time to highlighting Black artists and honoring the profound legacy, creativity, and ongoing contributions of Black musicians within classical and contemporary concert music. To close out the season, we are featuring 2 extraordinary artists whose work continues to reshape and expand the concert music landscape. Composer and pianist Joe Williams and concert pianist David Berry. Today's guest is composer, pianist, educator, curator, and what he calls a sound liberator, Joe Williams. Currently pursuing a PhD in composition at the University of Hawaiʻi at Mānoa, Joe moves fluidly across performance, scholarship, composition, education, and advocacy. From championing the music of Black composers, including Florence Price, Betty Jackson King, Maria Thompson Corley, Brian Raphael Nabors, and James Lee III, to producing films honoring artists like William Chapman Nyaho, Joe's work is deeply rooted in preservation, liberation, and human connection. In this special conversation, we explore Black artistry and legacy, the meaning of representation and belonging in concert music, improvisation and composition, and ancestral responsibility, the transformative power of education, and how music can become a form of liberation. And before we begin, if you are enjoying these conversations, be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube and follow the Piano Pod on your favorite podcast platform. Your support truly helps independent arts media like this continue to grow and reach more listeners around the world. This is Season 6, Episode 19 of the Piano Pod, Sound Liberation. Joe Williams on Black artistry, legacy, belonging, and classical music. Please enjoy the show. You are listening to the Piano Pod, where we talk to the brightest minds in the industry about how they are bringing the piano into the future and thriving in a complex, ever-evolving world. Joe, welcome to the Piano Pod. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We actually met last year at Juneteenth LP, 10th anniversary at Joe's Pub here in New York. I remember sitting there and spotting you almost right away, and you were with Leah Claiborne, who I had also had her on the show last season, and of course the two of you are connected through projects like Arise and Shine, and which we're going to talk about. But by the way, where are you joining us from today?
I'm joining you all from Honolulu, Hawaii.
Oh, wow. Yay. And then you attend school there, no?
I do. I'm pursuing my PhD in composition here.
Oh, wow. Yeah, wow. How lovely. Do you like being on the island at Hawaii? Wow.
It's a beautiful place to be. I mean, the culture, the openness, the food, the beach, the mountains, the hiking. I mean, what's not to love? But yeah, of course, not much time to do the fun stuff. But
that's why you're busy composing. But how long are you there already? Like, is this your second, third year?
This is my first year here.
First year. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Great. Anyways, going back to our conversation, so Dr. Nena Oguo, who is the founder of the Juneteenth LP, she was encouraging me to reach out to you multiple times, and especially because of the work you're doing to help reshape this classical music landscape through your performance, curation, and composition. So, and you move across so many spaces as a composer, pianist, and what you call a sound liberator. Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah, tell us what does that mean?
Well, I'm fortunate enough to wear many hats, and I was thinking about a term that could be inclusive of all the modalities and disciplines that I want to take up space in. And and I think about calling myself a composer. That sounds so pretentious. I'm trying to get away from the ego, right? So pianist, I can't really play that well, so I don't really like calling myself pianist, right? And I just thought, okay, what's the core thing that I'm doing in everything? Curation, scholarship, performance. And I was thinking to myself, my kuleana, or my responsibility, is really to free people through my art, right? And I think a lot of musicians hold similar philosophies, but I really wanted to just anchor myself in ancestral truth and responsibility. So at my best, I liberate sound for folks. I preserve histories, and I free folks up.
Wow, great, wonderful. That's exactly what you're doing through music and teaching and curation. So if you had to define your artistic identity, I mean, maybe you already explained, but your passion and mission in a few sentences, what would you say?
Ooh, my passion and mission. Wow.
Right now, at this moment of your life, 2026.
I'm just really passionate about connecting with folks. The path of a musician can be really solitary, as we refine our crafts, solitary confinement in the practice room. And then we have to switch when we get to the concert stage, and we have to be suddenly open-hearted. But how do we get to that point when we're not listening to people's stories and making deep eye contact and walking alongside them and journeying other paths? So, right now I'm really passionate about human connection and having the fortune to travel different places, live with different communities. That's always something that could go deeper in our lives that I hope all my students have the chance to live like that. So that's number one. Number two, it's more artistic. It's understanding that the spaces I occupy, maybe there's not many folks who have similar background as me, and they're not used to seeing someone like me being free in public, right? I think American society especially doesn't foster enough creativity and expression of Black men, queer Black men. We don't see a lot of representation in all facets of society, but especially classical music. So I understand that just me coming up to a space, even before I play a note, there's a set of preconceived notions. And I kind of find a lot of joy in subverting those and just, showing up with my tats and showing up with whatever I feel like wearing and just throwing down a, Scarlatti Sonata. Just throwing it down and seeing people gag, you know what I'm saying? So.
That is so cool. That is so cool. That's the way to play Scarlatti, especially.
Why not?
Why not? Okay, so let's talk about your recent, right? So congrats on the recent award, winning the Vanguard Award for Classical Innovation and Community Impact, an honor that speaks not only to your work, but as an artist, but to your impact as an educator and an advocate. Can you tell us a bit about this award?
Yeah, so Chavashia Arts Conservatory, actually all the way in Florida, is doing some amazing community music education work in reaching folks who are passionate about pursuing music education. And I really respect people who commit to addressing this barrier in real ways. So the founder, Patrice, she's a wonderful, wonderful pedagogue and violinist. She just decided she's not going to wait for the industry to recognize other people's contributions. She's just going to start awarding folks. This is how Black women do. They don't wait for change. They just like, let me just start doing it myself. Y'all could catch up later. So to have her recognition, someone who's been doing this for so many decades at such a high level of excellence, that's huge. That's huge alone. And, classical innovation, community impact. Wow, do I really do that? But when you hear that from someone you respect, from an elder in your community, that keeps you on that path. That's very motivating to continue in that direction, even though in my humble viewpoint, no, there's tons of other people who've done more to fix this cluster F of a situation we're all in, right? But yeah, just to share from my heart, it was really, really one of the greatest honors I could receive, really.
Where in Florida? Was it Miami or?
Where is that town in Florida? I mean, between you and me, that state should just be obliterated off the map. There's a bunch of crazies in Florida.
Okay.
She's doing the Lord's work. I believe Tallahassee.
Oh, okay. Great. Yeah. So now moving on to the next, in an article that I read by the University of Hawaiʻi at Mānoa, Department of Music, you described this recognition as carrying a kind of professional and ancestral obligation. I'd like to hear you expand on that. What does that sense of responsibility actually feel like for you right now?
I think in the music world, we're used to talking about lineage when it comes to pedagogy, right? Like, oh, I'm the grandson of Rachmaninoff because my teacher studied with Rachmaninoff, right? And in the field of music education, we're also used to naming certain pedagogies after pioneers, right? Like the Kodai method, right? Just as an example. So I thought to myself, like, wow, what is the equivalent within the Black community? Because in the field of music education, I can't really think of any standard methods attributed to Black music educators, right? So what if receiving this award means that now I have to think about what is the Patrice method? Or what if after being mentored by Frances Walker, the pioneering pianist, what if I now teach in the Frances method? Whoa, that's going to take a lot of work to institutionalize, right? And it's going to take a lot of me just like talking about it endlessly to everyone I see. So that's what I mean by responsibility, because there is a way for figures to live on historically, but it takes constant effort and advocacy to make sure that happens, right? And the ancestral part really is the lineage that I was talking about, just being able to trace, almost biblically being able to trace where you're coming from and where your ideas are coming from. And, obviously in an academic environment, there's ways to cite that, but I think even what we're doing now conversationally is important too.
Sure. Oh, then speaking of that, I want to start with your educational part of it, like an educator part of hat that you wear, right? Because you mentioned about method and then basically lineage and pedigree. Like classical music especially is all about that. And especially as a person who is also not only a Black artist, but also an advocate. So what does that look like? I'm hearing this method called Floyd method. Is that something that you are advocating for? If so, I would love to know what this method is.
Sure. So Patrice Floyd, who I mentioned earlier, she has a way of teaching kids in a way that's very culturally responsive and in a way that's familiar, in a way that they can adapt quickly and change. So I believe authenticity is the best approach we could take into the classroom. And I think it not only builds rapport, but it motivates students to show up as themselves. And that already takes down a huge barrier. But for me, I'm just really lucky because I've had so many people in my life come and model Black excellence. And for our listeners who are not familiar with this concept, this is a standard like you've never known. Come here, baby, that don't look right. Let me fix it. I mean, that's Black excellence. And it's also being a president at Harvard University. You know what I'm saying? So it's very integrated into every facet of your life, not just how you're showing up to an assigned skill, right? It's a way of being. It's like a whole philosophical construct. And we celebrate progress as a community by underlining moments of Black excellence and by remembering Black history. And I think that's really important. And that concept alone can transform the entire field of classical music. Because, I don't know, Black history is not just for February, right? So there's just lots of ways that we can remember through our art. It's all about remembering and honoring and bringing folks into the space. I always think about Maya Angelou, how she talked about having rainbows in her cloud and, everyone who's ever been nice to her. It doesn't matter their background, gay or straight or black or white or yellow or anything. She brings all those people who ever showed her love, and she brings those people with her when she does all the great things that she's ever done. And they're with her in that space. So that's what I call ancestral attunement. And, we don't always have the privilege to have a posse around us. So when I play my concerti and when I play my sonatas, there's lots of people with me, and I hold those memories really close.
Recently gave a solo recital at the University of Hawaiʻi, performing the piano works of Betty Jackson King and Richard Thompson. And across your work, more broadly, you've been deeply engaged with composers like Maria Thompson Corley. And I interviewed her, and she's amazing. And her solo piano piece, especially Lucid Dreaming, is one of my favorite. And then James Lee III, and then Brian Raphael Nabors.
Yes, and his birthday is today, by the way.
Oh, really? Hey!
On the day
happy
that we're
birthday,
recording this
Mr.
interview.
That's great.
Happy birthday, Mr. Nabors.
And so you, through premieres and performances, so these are the composers that we still do not hear nearly enough in mainstream concert spaces. Yet their music
Yes, and to your point, they're also quite prolific. I mean, let's go through each one who you mentioned, right?
Yes, please.
Nabors, 3 piano sonatas so far, and a number of other solo piano works, not to mention chamber music that features the piano. Even a piano trio. I mean, the repertoire lists are vast, and I'm just so proud to see my colleagues rise. Maria Thompson Corley, just a phenomenal pianist hyphen composer. It's always nice to play music that's idiomatic, right? And she's written a lot that's just comfortable in the fingers to play. James Lee III premiered his album For the Young at Heart, and wow, a dozen substantial solo piano works and a piano concerto. chamber music again. So just to your point, yeah, not nearly integrated enough into our programs. And we have to remember that any living composer is depending on a commission for our livelihood. So what we know about opportunities and equity in this country is that presenters really need to be intentional about including us in programming as well. So
yeah. And so the recent recital with pieces by Betty Jackson King and Richard Thompson, tell us a little bit more about their works and what was the entire program like?
Oh, thank you for that. So I did have a chance to record Richard Thompson's vocal works with my good sister Elena Lewis, and that really opened up more interest into his other music. So I thought, okay, let's look at the solo piano works. And I had a chance to hear them recorded by the composer himself. I had a chance to hear them recorded by another wonderful pianist, Kim Davenport. And I said, okay, let me record and perform these as well, because they're so beautiful and how they blend the jazz idioms with the classical formalism. I said, well, that's half of a recital. What else can we add to supplement that? Maybe the works of Betty Jackson King. So she also kind of liked jazz, but she was more influenced by modernism, impressionism. She was great neoclassicist as well. I mean, she just took all of her interests and put them all together to make a beautiful, unique language. And so the two of those composers works together. That's a full recital. One of them is with us. One of them is with us in another way, right? Mm-hmm. So there's historical Black composers to honor. There's living Black composers to honor. Wow. And I learned so much from this experience of just juxtaposing two people with just really individual voices and being able to share that with an audience that no one in the audience had heard any of their music before. And I think just the idea that especially in an academic environment, like, wow, I've been teaching for many years, I have many degrees, but this student just played music at a high level that I never knew. I think that sends a message to our academic community. And I would encourage any researcher or graduate student to keep pursuing really niche avenues of music making that represent your culture, just to really make a message that there's lots more work that we could be doing in our scholarship.
Oh, definitely. Not only the, Black history, but also I think we need to explore more Asian composers, Asian music in our industry, right? Yeah.
I absolutely agree. And, I'm so lucky because I'm attending university, which is nationally regarded as, let's say, just the central hub for Asian, Pacific, and Asian American music scholarships. So, wow, all of my colleagues are really passionate and invested in this kuleana of highlighting Asian and Asian American and Pacific composers as well. Wow,
yeah. We'll come back to that because I'm very curious. And so, but let's just see, since we talked about showcasing, highlighting excellency, especially particularly the Black composers, I want to know also, more about the storytelling part. When you put together recitals centered entirely on Black composers, it's not just programming, it's a message, or it's a storytelling preservation, like preservation you mentioned, and then especially in the way that you also produce films, highlighting figures like William Chapman Nyaho and Maxine Mimms and then Maya Angelou. So tell us more about these films. I'm just curious, and how they came about, and then what drew you to spotlight figures like them, especially Dr. Nyaho. I'm trying to book him for interview, but he's so busy. Yeah,
busy guy.
Mhm. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful soul, beautiful spirit, and oh my goodness, he has contributed so much to moving the needle toward honoring Blackness, honoring Africanness. His multi-volume Oxford publication of piano music by composers of African descent, his multiple recordings that accompany those materials, and his endless there's some scholars that just, okay, here's my scholarship, but he is just active in master classes and recitals still. I don't even know how he balances all of this. It's wonderful. And, the thing that we all love about Uncle Nyaho is that the way he treats people is always from the heart. He's always modeling love, and, there's no ego with this guy. So, in my relationship with him, I had to say, okay, here's my opportunity to produce. Can we do a portrait documentary about this man, this beautiful man who's given us all so much? His warmth, his spirit, his scholarship, his advocacy. So that was that film. And, the producing part of my work started in the pandemic, as many of us adjusted to different ways of sharing art given our circumstances, right? So instead of recitals, I worked with a videographer to highlight different folks whose stories needed to be told. And for this film with Nyaho, I was really, really happy to have the chance to invite contributors, such as another wonderful African composer, Fred O, Bungani. Wow, lots of other folks who wanted to really spell out why Nyaho is a living legend and what he has done. So intergenerational conversations, I think, are really important as well, for folks to see modeled on the screen. And yeah, I just feel so honored and so lucky to even be able to have a conversation with him. And I really hope that he can appear on the Piano Pod, so you have the same opportunity as well. Yes, that would be great. But so did it become like a documentary or like a short film? Short film. What is the length, if I remember? I think it's about a half hour. Really? Wow. Is it available to watch or listen? Yeah, we're trying to get some rights negotiated so that it could be shared with the broader public now. Would you be open to talking about your love for music?
My love for music?
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me how this started.
I grew up in a family where, from the earliest times, and, I had an elder sister, Nyamapo, who was playing the piano. So I think all I know is that I just really wanted to imitate her. So my love for music started really early on. I think it's just because I was surrounded by it all. You are so multi-talented. You can even produce a film like that. That's great. I was listening to your arrangement of Sometimes I Feel Like a Motherless Child for voice and piano, sung by Kenneth Overton and piano by Dr. Elizabeth Hill. And what really stayed with me was the sense of restraint and clarity. It felt intentional, almost like you were
carving space into the sound with a harmony language that hints at jazz inflections and extended sonorities and along cluster-like, textures and on the piano part, obviously. And then, so what have you been most focused on in your musical language lately?
Thank you, Kimi. Well, that particular arrangement of African American spiritual, I'm a descendant of enslaved Africans, right? So the genre of spirituals is always going to be near and dear to my heart. And that arrangement originally just started as an improvisation that me and a wonderful, wonderful, incredible tenor named Joshua Stewart performed for a radio broadcast. So, he's introducing his selections and says, our next arrangement is by Joe Williams. And I'm like looking at him and I'm like, but we're doing jazz. This isn't a written arrangement. We're just improvising. So, when he said that, I took it seriously. Okay, so in just a couple of seconds, I said, okay, whatever I play now, it has to be preserved because he called it an arrangement. So I used as simple and refined texture as I could, and I just wanted to create something honest, but also in my own voice. So I inflected a lot of jazz and also French Impressionism in the arrangement that you heard, and it turned out really nice. And I got word from my really good friend Kenny Overton, just an incredible human being, beautiful baritone. And he said, "Oh, I'm making an album with Dr. Elizabeth Hill. And she is just the bomb diggity, thebomb.com. She can play and throw it down on that keyboard, let me tell you." So these are two artists that I respect so dearly. And I was so fortunate that they were interested in this arrangement, which, after writing it all down, I thought, I always need to start my compositions with improvisation because it's coming from a place that's undiluted. And I really didn't have to edit much of what I originally conceived because in the spirit of improvisation, there's so much freshness, and I'm already subconsciously pulling from lots of different influences. I think composers, especially contemporary composers who work maybe more in the avant-garde side of the tradition, we can over-intellectualize music so much to the extent that maybe people don't even want to hear it because it's not even melodic. It's too cerebral. It's mathematical, you could even call it. And I am a proponent for experimentation. Okay, I'm not saying let's just be conservative and write tonal music, but I think that using improvisation as the starting point can really result in more honest music making. All the twists and turns that come, all of the mistakes that you have to correct in real time. In blues and jazz, that's part of the tradition. You leave those in, right? So, I think I'm really fortunate because, don't overthink it, composers. Just write what feels true and leave the rest to the artist to interpret.
Wow. But did you have lots of experiences with improvisation, like growing up or in your upbringing, I guess?
A little bit. My first relationship to the piano was playing by ear. And then I did receive some lessons eventually, but my early musical life was improvisation in church settings. And, I was homeschooled, so I had a lot of time to actually practice and learn how to read music. So my sight reading skills were developed from a really early age, and I had a freakish ability, actually. To read scores fast. So that came in handy later in life when I became a staff accompanist at Oberlin Conservatory, and I had to learn all these scores really quickly. Wow. We all have our strengths. And now that I compose, I'm like, what is my relationship to notation? So recently I've been involving more open-ended graphic notation, so that the composer can see a symbol, and I guess the semiology of that can inflect how they interpret the other notes that are written. But
wow, that sounds, I don't know. I want to see the score. Yeah.
I'll show you.
Yeah.
You know, in the West, we're so obsessed with like the written word.
Yeah.
And in this chapter in my life, I'm obsessed with like preserving oral histories and, you know, preserving knowledge in other ways. So I'm at this weird crossroads in my compositional life where I really want to break free from notation and, you know,
Wow.
lean into the jazz side and graphic side. But I'd love to have this conversation again with you in a few years and see where I land on all of
Sure.
this.
Oh, yeah.
All very valuable. It's not either or.
Yeah, it is. It is not either or. Wow. But, you know, coming from a strict classical training, I think it's a very, very difficult thing to do in that sort of free way, and it's start from like improvisation, that sort of idea. But I can sense that you were playing in church. The style of music was like a gospel kind of style, and then you were, you know, given specific, like, let's say, hymnals or maybe like a melody with chords, and then you were able to improv, or did you just everything by ear and you were just playing in church?
We had lead sheets in the church setting I grew up playing in, and I would say the aesthetic was more contemporary Christian. So, you know, it was I guess they call it a praise team or praise band, and we played off the lead sheets and just improvised on the chord changes. But, you know, my dad was a pastor originally from Mississippi, but pastoring in the Seattle-Tacoma region, and demographically a little bit different from Mississippi, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I heard him play lots of old songs that, you know, you might hear in Mississippi. And he had a way of playing his guitar in the country picking style. And I think that somehow has informed my language too. But yeah, I always like to clarify, like when I grew up in the church, like, yeah, my dad, black pastor, but not really a lot of gospel. Imagine that.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I'm asking this because it's always fascinating how all the guests start playing the piano, you know, and everybody has a different story. And some grew up in a very strict classical music background at home, and then some are just basically there was no music at all, and then all of a sudden they fell in love with music. It's so fascinating, you know, the moment music becomes something to their lives. So that's why I asked. But I actually met several amazing gospel piano players, pianists. Oh, they're incredible.
Oh, they are incredible. And I always respect people who come to that tradition later in life. Like, I have a wonderful colleague, Dr. Yi Chang, who teaches piano at Tuskegee University in Alabama. And part of his position, in addition to teaching, he has been assigned to play for the gospel choir there. And of course, this is a colleague from my Oberlin days who was an amazing classical pianist. And when he took the position, he just had to learn. And he's done such a wonderful job embracing this tradition, you know. This funny Taiwanese dude who like loves basketball ends up in Alabama and is playing gospel. And I think it's so amazing because that speaks to how universal music can be, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's never too late. If you have any interest, there's lots of resources now to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and a lot of ways to learn to improvise, make it on your own. Wow. So then that's how you started your musical journey. And then what was the musical training like growing up?
You know, reflecting back, I think it's such a miracle that I even made it through all of the barriers that there are to learning an instrument. But originally I had access to a keyboard, and I love playing video games, so I would just play by ear all of the themes of the video games that I heard, right? And I had a sister-in-law who played piano, and she taught me some things at first. But unless you're from a socioeconomic bracket that really has to make tough decisions every day about life necessities, sometimes you don't realize educating a child on a private instrument is a substantial investment. Yes. I mean, over the course of a number of years, our parents invested thousands of dollars in us, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think that when we have conversations around equity and access, especially, we need to keep that in mind, right? Like, it just takes resources to generate talent, period, right?
Yes. Thank you for saying that. It is true. Mm-hmm.
I mean, even having the instrument itself, after a keyboard, I remember the conversation really clearly in my memory about my parents talking about, to advance, he really needs a real real piano, right? A real instrument. And they were just talking, okay, how do we get it? Where do we get it? Here's our budget. Are we going to find something, suitable with this budget? But they made it happen, because they recognized my potential. And imagine I didn't have a community or family unit that didn't recognize my potential. I would still be on a keyboard playing by ear. And that's a beautiful tradition. But look at how much I've been able to grow in other traditions because I had the resource access, right? So I think that's the most important piece for me. And my educators that came after my sister-in-law, I had a Norwegian-American piano teacher named Paul Tweet in Tacoma who brought me up to speed for being such a late starter. I started piano lessons when I was 14 years old. That was wonderful to have a solid foundation from him. And then I went on to, I also had a wonderful choral educator who, not piano, but instilled a certain level of excellence, a Greek-American woman named Despina Alatzis, who had me accompanying her choirs at a young age and, understanding different approaches to music education. And for some reason or another, with the support of just these few individuals in my life, I was able to be one of 20 pianists admitted to Oberlin Conservatory in the year 2011. Yeah, 2011. And I was the first Black pianist to be admitted to that institution in a 6-year span.
Wow.
So 6 years at that institution, there were no other Black classical pianists admitted, which speaks to, in my opinion, institutional complacency. And I'm really happy to see it on a better trajectory nowadays. But those were some wonderful and also lonely times. Our friend Nina, who you mentioned, with her wonderful Juneteenth programming in New York City, Joe's Pub and other places like the Met Museum, she also attended the Oberlin Conservatory. And of course, we all have stories from our music school years, right? Hopefully not all traumatic, but wow.
Tell me more about that. Yeah, like you said, sorry to interrupt, but tell me more about, you said something about felt solitude or loneliness. Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, well, I think that's the crux of representation, right? When you feel like you're the only one doing something, which of course it's not true, right? But sometimes we're all in our own silos and we might not have the mentorship to guide us, to give us that perspective that, okay, there's lots of other people like you doing what you're doing, but just not in this space, right? And I actually had moments like that because at Oberlin, I had a wonderful Black dean, Chris Jenkins, who's now leading the Lawrence Conservatory in Wisconsin. But to have that representation gave me perspective. To have the scholarship support of Frances Walker, a pianist who set up a scholarship fund for Black students. I was able to have her support and mentorship in that space. And other, supportive allies like my piano professor, Sanford Margolis, like my instrumental accompanying professor, James Hausman. They made me feel like a whole human being, and gave me an education that was really world class. So again, I look back at my life and I see all the areas that I got lucky. Got so lucky, but there were moments of loneliness for sure, because it's really, I almost wonder, should institutions just let one Black person in? The token, right? No, let us in bigger numbers. Come on, 2 or 3 of us. At least let us have some some friends along the way.
Yeah, and hopefully that would be the case now. I'm not sure, but I'm away from all these institutions for a long time. But tell me more about your teacher, legendary pioneering pianist Frances Walker. I was listening to her recording of Mendelssohn's Variations Theory. Oh, made me cry this morning. It was so deeply expressive, and then the tone, her tone. Speaks to you, just gets you. But you are one of her final students, no?
Yes.
What was it like to sitting just beside her and getting lessons?
I will use this word again, familial. She was kind of like a grandmother figure to me. And I did meet her at the end of her life. It was a long life. It was a hard life. But for those interested, she did write somewhat of an autobiography called A Miraculous Journey, which is available online if you want to order and read that. She left behind lots of recordings as well. The 24 Negro Melodies of Samuel Coleridge Taylor, which she recorded in just one sitting.
Oh my God.
If you can imagine. Oh. That's over an hour of music, right?
Wow.
Yeah, she drove from Oberlin, where she was teaching as the first tenured Black woman professor at the institution. And she drove to New York, and she was going to get caught in a storm if she didn't leave. So she recorded it all in one setting. And what we hear is this beautiful music. But that's just the type of genius she was, right? And she told me lots of different stories. I would go to her house and she would serve me food, and I would always tell her, "Oh, I'm vegan." And she would always put something on the plate that wasn't vegan. And, like any older generation does, and say, you have to eat this. You have to get strong. Get some meat on your bones. And, in between that, she would make me listen to her recordings, which Mendelssohn she loved, Liszt she loved performing, Brahms she had a very special affinity for. And also a number of other Black composers who she championed, and who I had to follow in her footsteps to champion as well. She also was a proponent of her brother's music, George Walker. And as many wonderful artists interpreted his music, she was always proud that he complimented her as being one of the best interpreters of his music. And we know George Walker's earlier works have a very different flavor than the later works, because serialism and other sorts of atonalities were that was the it music for institutions in the 50s, right? At least in this country. And Frances was telling me, like, in this chapter of his life, he got cold and mathematical, just like his music. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's some family tea right there. Hold up now. I wasn't ready. But, she definitely had a preference for his earlier works. Second Piano Sonata is really quite accessible and beautiful. His Variations on a Kentucky Folk Song, gorgeous. Very hard, gorgeous. So anyway, I heard lots of family stories that might be too personal to share, but I also heard all of her challenges navigating, life as an international concert pianist. Stories she told me in Germany of how she was treated. Stories she told me of um, other pianists, how they treated her. I think having the chance to hear her experiences this late in life in her 90s carried that much pain still. As a young person, seeing that trauma has lasted for so many years.
Yeah. Yeah, she had a really not one or two, but triple, I think, challenges. She was injured or burnt when she was young.
Fire.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. And then she was really the only female Black educator at Oberlin, and so many other challenges I'm sure she encountered. Wow, what a story. Yeah.
It's as the book calls it, it's a miraculous journey. Mm-hmm. Very miraculous. We have to think, when we see a Black person in the classical space, we just have to stop and think how much this person has endured, how much they have survived just to be able to show up and play beautiful, often European music at a high standard, which some people just resent that fact alone, that we're just out here making beautiful music from all over the world, and that's just the starting point. So what else can we do with our artistry, and what else can we do with our pedagogy to share this tradition in ways that aren't continuing that pain that we endured, but perpetuating beauty and love for the world? How do we do that?
Yeah. Well, that's where you come in, you don't speak really about yourself. Like we've been talking about other composers, but you're an incredible pianist. I actually watched your performance of, speaking of, Piano Sonata No. 2 by Brian Raphael Nabors, and we just talked about, I even commented on that video. I said, great soundscape, deeply soulful, immersive. Oh, immersive. That's the word. Wow, that music. But you're playing, how special. You're very, very gifted. You're very, very fantastic pianist. So after graduating, and you were still in, you went back to Washington State area, Seattle area, and you were being a collaborative pianist for a while. Oh, no, at Oberlin, not Washington.
Yes, both. Actually, both. So after a year in that staff position, I finished up my graduate degree in Cleveland and went back to the Seattle area to freelance as a collaborative pianist. So I did that for a number of years, working with lots of wonderful talent, folks from Seattle Opera, Portland Opera, educating other kids in my community who needed access to free music lessons as well, and putting lots of pieces together as we do as musicians to make our livelihoods.
Right. And then didn't you create like a sort of educational institution or something, and then teaching young kids in the area, and then including neurodiverse kids, right?
Yes. What an incredible way to spend my 20s, right? Just saying yes to projects that I wanted to, right? And starting new initiatives and gathering community to solve challenges, right? So during this time, I served on the Tacoma Arts Commission. During this time, I served as an arts advisor for the city of Seattle. During this time, I founded a free after-school music program called Tequila Kids Make Music, which for about 4 years, we were seeing 50 kids every week, mostly immigrants and refugees in the Tukwila, South Seattle area. And we were, offering them African drum lessons, group piano lessons, choir, guitar, and just joyous years of connecting with the community through music. And during this time, I also achieved state certification as a behavior technician. So I was giving, ABA therapy to kids on the autism spectrum and helping them with their motor skills and speech acquisition. And beautiful years of my life. I really feel so grounded. And, I think when we're young, I could say this because I'm, mid-30s now, but
so old, please.
When we're younger, we just have this thirst to really contribute to some of the issues that are important to us. We're shaping our values in the world.
Well,
seeing our impact, right?
Not everybody. Usually people in their 20s, they just focus on themselves. Like that's the only thing that they have in their mind. Not you. You started from community. That's something that speaks so much about you. Yeah, I was very impressed. Yeah. But then you abandoned everything and then you went to Mexico.
Yes. Yeah, I said, you know what? I've done enough. I can't just keep serving community till I die. No, I actually did. I moved to Mexico and I pursued my own liberation, right? Life in the States, I think we all can just use a breather. I think we can all use a breather, okay? Things are getting a little crazy. They have been crazy since forever, since the last 250 years, okay? But I had the chance to move to Mexico after serving as a music director for a wonderful, wonderful church, Plymouth Church, where the Reverend Dr. Kelly Brown preaches. And, that was kind of my last community effort because I wanted to end on a high note. I was like, this feels really good. I could keep doing this and just live happily as a church musician for the rest of my days, or I could just try to continue growing. So I moved to Mexico, and there I was supporting Poder Coral, which is a community choir actually in Mexico, in the state of Jalisco. And that was really fun because I was navigating a new language, navigating a new country, and again, being able to share the gift of music with community members.
Right. And for how long you were there?
1 year.
1 year. Yeah. So last year I saw you. That's when you were about to move to Hawaii, no?
When was I already living in Mexico when you saw me?
Yeah. You said you flew from Mexico to New York. And then so you were not yet in Hawaii, but yeah, you were in transit.
I was.
Yeah.
I really never felt a spirit of inclusion from the composer mentors and professors in my earlier music education. I had interpreted lots of works by composers, but I would just say I never had access to composition lessons, to be very blunt and frank. I had some really wonderful music theory education, and because I play piano, obviously that's a wonderful foundation for understanding music holistically. So in recent years, through my freelance work, through opportunities like what Afton Battle gave me, and she was leading the Fort Worth Opera, she was one of my first commissions, right? Always in my career, Black women have commissioned me to produce work when the mainstream institutions won't get their act together. Most recently, Castle of Our Skins, Ashley Gordon, the artistic director there for 13 years. Wow, she's been doing such great work, and she has given me my latest commission. But
Castle of Our Skins is in Boston. That's an organization dedicated to foster cultural celebrating Black artistry through music, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Sorry to interrupt. Yes, go ahead.
And coming into a compositional identity after being a concertizing pianist, collaborative pianist, piano educator, all those things, right? I realize it's not that much of a reach. The gap between what we do as performing artists and composers, I don't think it's as huge as we make it up, because we have the skills to do that. Yukimi, like if you composed an etude tomorrow, it would sound good. I know it would.
Well, I did compose a little bit when I was a kid,
Really?
Yeah.
Do you still have those works?
I in my head, I remember. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's all in your head, just write it down. Right? I mean, it's the same for any discipline. Like if you're an author, okay, you have the story, you just put it on paper. That's the hardest part of starting. So I said, okay, I'm just going to decide to write everything in my head down. And I put it down. And before I knew it, I had an orchestra piece. I had solo piano music. I had vocal works. And I submitted a portfolio to the University of Hawaiʻi because I wanted to live in a sunny place. And I said, I'll just try. And I was accepted on full scholarship. With no composition training for a PhD, very competitive program. They accepted me and one other person. So, sometimes in life, there are barriers institutionally, but there are also the barriers we feed ourselves. With this defeatist ideology of I can't, right? We have to really empower ourselves with positivity and just start believing that, I am capable. I am brilliant. I am excellent. If I hadn't said affirmations like these that I got from my therapist, I would not be on the trajectory I am in life today. I would still be an imposter. I would still be playing it small, right?
Wow.
So I encourage you, next time I talk to you, I want to hear one of your compositions.
All right. I don't know. I'm embarrassed. But that's great. Then tell me, what are you experiencing right now in Hawaii? I know I'm so jealous because as an Asian person, obviously, I don't know much about Asian music, actually, really. I'm kind of person in the sort of gray area. I'm not quite Japanese. I'm not Korean either. But I grew up, my, grandmother would sing some Korean tunes and things. But, so I'm very, very jealous that you get to study Asian Pacific traditions and ethnomusicology and cross-cultural, stuff in Hawaii. Tell me.
It's an opportunity of a lifetime, and I think it's particularly this institution of the University of Hawaiʻi at Mānoa can be a model for other institutions around the country who want to be responsive to the traditions around them in their community. So the reason why Asia and Pacific is so big in Hawaii is because look around you, right? And what if music departments just looked around them? In Chicago and Detroit and New York, what if they just looked around and decided we are going to teach the music of the people? All of our problems would be solved. All of our DEI, as they call it, all of those things would be solved in a heartbeat. So anyway, the program here is really special because with just as much rigor as we're, looking at classical music, we're looking at different classical music traditions and theories of the global south, of the world, right? And this semester, I'll just give you an example. I've been learning the gagaku tradition of Japan, one of the most ancient musical traditions in the world. It's imperial Japanese court music. So one of my favorite instruments to play is the sho. It's the mouth organ. And it, you're basically just circular breathing for forever, producing this beautiful sustained sound for the other instruments to float on top of. We have access to all sorts of traditional instruments at this university. The koto, the shakuhachi, the ichiriki. I mean, you name it. We have a huge ethnomusicology collection of instruments here. And we also have faculty specializing in traditional Korean music of the Sanjo tradition. So this was my first time in this program writing for an Eastern instrument. I wrote for the kaigum. Oh my goodness, that beautiful plucked pitch bending Korean string instrument. Wow. And, you know, it just shows you what's possible. You know, when you just decenter Europe for just a second, there's so much richness out there. And you start just seeing how common we are, how we like all over the world, how we just like to make music together, how we like to tell our stories through music, how we like to honor life through music. You know, it's all the same. It's all the same.
But you find your place in variety. You'll find your place in sort of really diversity. I don't want to sound like so cliche, but, you know, because you mentioned a little bit ago about loneliness and how isolated you felt, but then you find just a beautiful, you know, your own spot in a beautiful place like Hawaii, surrounded with this diversity of music. That's haven, right?
Yes. And can you imagine my composition here, my composition mentor, Professor Takuma Ito, Japanese American composer who has such a strong jazz background. Can you imagine, you know, just after all these years of being lost in the wilderness and never quite getting that representation I needed, you know, just to finally have it. I mean, he played Stevie Wonder in class the other day and I just was crying, you know. You know, he's just doing all the things I've been shouting into the void to try to help, you know, educators get to a place of consciousness and embracing, you know, Black music for analysis. You know, he's just doing that in the music theory classroom. And you start realizing that, you know what, it's a new day. You know, it's a new day and change is here. You become part of change and then you look around you and you see everyone else who's also embraced it. You know, that's really nice. I think as I age, that's the most satisfying thing. And then you see in the students their curiosity and the research they bring. And you see, wow, they're also on this path. I could help them. I could help them keep their spirits in the process and help them navigate all the haters who come into their path. Give them all the tips for sustaining themselves through this work for all the years that they're going to be committed to it, right? So
now, you know, I'm also, I have to be careful. Well, who cares? Because I don't like exclusiveness or exclusivity, or you have to really get through this narrow path to become excellent. I don't believe in that, you know. Of course, to become excellent, you have to work hard. It's very difficult to be excellent, but I think anyone should be able to do it. Yeah, I'm struggling. So I'm very encouraged by this conversation right now. Yeah.
Well, we have to think about, you know, historical examples. We have to reimagine it, you know. I'll take Nina Simone's story, for example. The Curtis Institute of Music, the most highly regarded place of musical study in our country, denied one of the most brilliant artists of the 20th century, Miss Nina Simone. And then when you really let that fact sink in, you start to understand the need for inclusion. Right? Because who else are we denying because they're not fitting into our so limited standards of excellence that we're gatekeeping?
the previous season, Leah Claiborne spoke about Arise and Shine as a large-scale project, bringing together Black pianists and composers at Yamaha Artist Services. Oh, she's brilliant. And to create a living archive of music for young pianists, centering representation, pedagogy, and legacy. So I've spoken with several artists involved in that Arise and Shine project, including Gina McKay. Kyle P. Walker, is he also in that project?
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's fantastic. And then, of course, as well as Maria Thompson Corley. So,
yes.
What was your role in Arise and Shine? Did you participate as a performer or composer?
I was a performer, and this Arise and Shine project, which Dr. Leah Claiborne spearheaded through her organization, Ebony Music Inc., and in partnership with the Yamaha studio in Manhattan, right? I mean, this is the definition of thinking big, right? This came about through the support of the Sphinx organization. So she had the vision to apply for a grant, and she made her case, and she won that substantial funding to make this happen. This gathering of 10 pianists from across the country, representing lots of different avenues, backgrounds, and places in the diaspora. We got together, and it is historic. And I think we all don't take that lightly. The fact that 10 of us will be remembered historically for gathering to honor our ancestral music, right? Nyaho was a part of this project. Karen Wallman was part of this project.
Michelle Kahn
was part of this project. You know, speaks to just how community minded she is. I was really honored to present music by other living composers. I played a blues piece by Dave Ragland. But what I love about this project is that it demystifies the idea that piano music is just for the advanced player. You know, Dr. Claiborne's dissertation was about leveling piano music by Black composers because she wants to make it accessible to beginners, intermediate, advanced, and professional players. So all of the music on this album, Piano Music by Black Composers for Kids, is the subtitle, available on Navona Records. It's really just revolutionary to how pianists and piano teachers can share this tradition with pianists of all ages. And I'm just so proud to contribute to that effort. A publication and recording dual project that is monumental.
Right. Yeah.
Every artist has a story, and every story is shaped by moments of courage. As we wrap up Season 6, the Piano Pod is now accepting guest nominations for Season 7, launching this September. Our next season explores culture and courage, the roots that shape artists and the risks they take to move their work forward. Nominate a guest today. The link is in the show notes.
Do you want to talk about your newly composed piece, Affirmation?
Sure.
Let's talk about it. Thank you so much for sending the music score. It's an interesting combination of bass and vocal.
Yeah, so double bass, right? Flute, viola, countertenor, mezzo-soprano, and harp is the instrumentation I chose for this vocal chamber work called Affirmations. And it's a large-scale work. It can be as long as 25 or 30 minutes, depending on the sections that require a little bit of improvisation. But all of the text is written by one of my dear friends, a poet named Gloria Muhammad Joy. And she has written all of these affirmations to affirm our presence in the world. So it's very positive music. It's very meditative music. and it's very reflective music. I call my compositions sound liberations. So I like to think that it's freeing music for people as well as they hear these vibrations through the performer's intention. It's my hope that they're transformed by that experience.
Wonderful. And then is it going to be recorded and premiere sometime?
It will be premiered in Boston on June 6th. So
that's okay. So this episode will be out on June 2nd. So 4 days after. That's when you are playing for this event, Black Declaration of Independence.
Yes, I love how this organization, Castle of Our Skins, has taken that theme, which we're seeing nationally in arts programming, the historical fact of the United States of America turning 250 years old. What does that mean for Black people, right? Because in the original Declaration of Independence, we were not really accounted for. Independence has not been historically associated with Black folks in this country, mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. So what I love about this organization's work is they're responding to this correctively responding, and imagining a world and a country of Black folks who are independent and free. Just take that. If everyone just meditated on what it means to be Black and free, wow, that's something that can transform your whole worldview. Yeah, we're free. We're free. So you cannot lord dominance over us because we are free. You cannot pay us less. It's institutionally because our labor is not to be exploited, right? So I really think that that's my biggest takeaway. If anyone wants to get something from this music, I'm affirming things that should have been affirmed in that original Declaration of Independence.
Yes, I know. Yeah. Wow. This is great. So Black Declaration of Independence will happen in Boston on June 6th, which is 4 days after this episode
is published.
Then let's talk about your contribution to the Cambridge Companion to Florence Price. Florence Price's piano music is just become so popular, and rightly so. And it's a wonderful thing that is happening. You know, a lot of pianists play, and a lot of even students play her pieces. So I think it's wonderful just to be, because her pieces are just now the standard repertoire. I think it's encouraging, right? So yeah, but this publication came out on March 2026, which is a few months ago. So tell us about this project and what was your contribution to this publication?
Yeah, thank you so much. This is a really special honor to contribute. I co-authored a chapter with a wonderful musicologist named Gwen Brown, who is a professor of musicology at the University of Puget Sound in Tacoma, Washington. And I provided a practitioner lens, and my co-author provided more of a scholarly, historical lens. But we were focusing on the keyboard music of Florence Price, which includes pedagogical piano works, concert piano works, organ works, right? So this is part of the Cambridge Companion series, which is, it is an internationally renowned publication that has topics ranging from art to philosophy to all sorts of things. And it's meant as an introductory series for students and scholars alike to have verified peer-reviewed information about a certain topic or historical figure. So even the fact that Price is now positioned canonically to enter the Cambridge Companion series speaks to the work Price scholars have been doing in the last couple of decades. And the preeminent scholar of Price is Dr. Samantha Ege. And she has released numerous publications on the topic of Price, which follows the legacy of people like Raylinda Brown, the late musicologist who authored a pioneering biography on this composer, which I highly recommend. So Dr. Ege is one of the most community-minded scholars that I've had the chance to meet. She herself is a wonderful pianist, and she's recorded much of Price's music. She's performed, she's taught, and written about Price's music. But for her to get together a community of scholars in all different facets of their careers, to write critical essays on Price's work, again, we're positioning her in her rightful domain. You know, how many scholarly publications are there of Haydn compared to Black female composer like Florence Price? That should speak for itself. Just look at the numbers, right? In recent years, Price has been canonized without a doubt, right? Without a doubt, she is on programs regularly. She's on degree recitals. She's being studied at a high level. And with this increased attention, it is really important for those interpreters to rely on scholarly materials to do her music justice. I mean, how are you going to play Price without knowing what a juba dance is, for example? Right? How? How can you do that with any sense of authenticity in the same way that you would try to play, you know, a Bach suite without knowing French style ornamentation? You know, why would you feel compelled to delve into any performance practice without having the tools under your belt to do that, right? So this Cambridge Companion is a tool, it is a resource for scholars and practitioners. And again, Samantha Ege, wow. The contributors that she has assembled for this is going to make you think about Price in really new and special ways. Even as I share this with you, I'm thinking about her most recent publication of the 4 Fantasie Negres by Price, which is now available, I believe. So these are Price's most colorful large-scale piano compositions, now available in one compilation score, edited with fingerings and pedal markings appropriate for the early advanced student and the professional alike. So what an honor to contribute to this Price scholar community that Dr. Ege is cultivating internationally.
So who is Florence Price to you then?
Florence Price to me, she's someone who dreamed. You know, there's so many dreamy qualities about her music. From her lush harmonic language to her moments of impressionism you know, lushness, this musical texture of lush harmony that she employs, but also just the fact that she dreamed these compositions into creation. And she did it for a living. She dreamed for a living. When she accompanied silent films on the organ, she was looking at a scene and dreaming a musical landscape around it, right? And I think that's so important for Black women to dream and to have the resources and invitation and ease around them to dream, because look what comes of it. Everyone knows the famous story of how her symphony came to be premiered and how she was the first Black woman to have her symphony premiered in the United States. But in her keyboard music, we find almost orchestral textures. She didn't wait for the opportunity. She dreamed orchestral music at the keyboard. That's amazing to me. She was innovating on her own terms. And I just think it's really important that we remember her as someone in every stage of her career who was dreaming for herself and for her people.
Well, thank you. We're almost coming to an end, but just a few more questions. So you said it's a wonderful thing to move differently through the world and to spend life honoring what is most important to you. That's your writing. Now, what does that actually require, especially in the world that often rewards conformity?
Well, if I may, I would take the work you're doing as a perfect example of this. Through the Piano Pod, providing a platform for pianists to have genuine conversations like these and really getting to the heart of the matter and going into our purpose. I've had a chance to listen to a few episodes, and I'm always just struck afterwards, like, wow, when do we have the chance to hear the behind the scenes and to hear people's intentionality behind what they're doing? So I think the platform you provide is so empowering to that point. We're all navigating this industry in such different ways to keep our souls intact.
Oh, yeah.
and to keep our bank accounts happy, right?
Somewhat, yeah.
Right. It's all sacrifices, but behind this is a real sense of purpose, right? And how do you empower someone to have the courage to move through in their own way? No matter their background, no matter their no matter the way of socializing, their neurodiversity, whatever it is. What are we beyond the instrument? What is our legacy? How will we be remembered? What are we leaving behind? I think these are important questions for any artists. And, specifically as a Black artist, these are questions we interrogate on a daily basis. We don't always have the privilege to just waste opportunities. We have to go straight to what matters. If we have a platform, we use it to lift others up, or we use it to give our best, highest form of expression. I was just listening to the music of another pianist, Arminta Hummings, who founded the Gateways Music Festival. And I heard her recital from 1989, and I really felt that every note that she played, every phrase that she delivered, it was life or death. It came from a place of, I'm going to present this to the highest level possible. So that goes way beyond just the standards that they give us. Those are informed, again, ancestrally. Those are informed by this idea of Black excellence. And as we look at the contributions of Black scholars, of Black female scholars, performers, artists, that's the common denominator. If you look close enough, that's always going to be the common thread.
Where do you think the piano world is now when it comes to representation and repertoire? How are you doing? Are we doing better?
Sure.
Yay!
Sure. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to believe what makes you show up as your best self the next day.
Mm.
If you look around you and, you're seeing an absence, that can be very triggering and traumatic. Or you could see the one person nearby and you could reach out and spend your energy in doing the best you can for that one person, right? So is it to where we need? No, because we all have different standards of what tomorrow looks like. My tomorrow looks like integration. Yeah, I still use the word integration in the year 2026 because we know the state of our field and the racial inequities, right? It's not a secret after 2020.
Right, absolutely.
The cat's out of the bag, guys.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
If you haven't spent much time dreaming about what it looks like to, in my example, go to class with a scholar of, Filipino indigenous music, Kulintang, sitting right next to you. And, going to class and seeing, the beautiful diversity of musical talent around you. I think you're just missing out, and that deserves empathy. And then that's where you lean into your own kuleana, or your own sense of purpose and responsibility, and you fill in the gap. And you could either do that with resentment, and of course, everybody gets burnt out, or you could do that with the spirit of joy. And in this chapter of my life, I'm going to do it joyously.
That's great.
And I'm going to continue amplifying the resources around me.
Well,
So that's how I'm dealing with the crazy environment.
That's good, though. Yeah, you have such a good soul. Your heart is in the right place. That's what it is. Yeah. So the 102, one more. So you're part of the next generation of composers. I mean, you're in the club, Joe. Yeah. As you think about your own path, how do you want to shape your artistry and legacy? We talked about legacy, so now it's your turn. What's your legacy going to be like? I mean, what do you want it to be?
I've hustled for so long, and I'm just at the point where if someone is interested in my music, that's a wonderful honor. But I want to move with ease for the rest of my adult life. Okay, I want to enjoy some sunshine. I want to go on a walk. I think composers need spaciousness to create. Any creative needs a sense of ease to appreciate the beauty around them, to transmit into their own original piece, right? So I'm spending less time slowing down and pumping out less. Quality versus quantity. And if someone approaches me and they say, okay, I feel like I'm in alignment with your artistic practice, with your philosophy, I would like to champion your music. Would you please give me the permission to play one of your scores? Or can we collaborate? Or I would like to commission you. Okay, that's a conversation from a place that energizes me, right? But there's a million wonderful composers in the world to champion, right? Every artist, every pianist, look for places of alignment and lean in. And I promise it's going to be such a transformative experience for both parties. You're going to set each other free.
Wow.
That's my strategy to keep my longevity and avoid burnout in this next chapter.
Yeah. And you're doing just fine. You're doing great. So what's next for you? So you have this Black Declaration of Independence happening on June 6th, but is there anything else like you can share that you're maybe working towards or working for? Like composing opera or something?
I'm pausing because, you have those intrusive thoughts come into your head. I was thinking about a similar question that I asked Aretha Franklin, and she was just... her response was like, I'm thinking about what I'm making for dinner tomorrow.
I've seen that video. Yes. I've seen it.
It sends me every time. I'm just like, I'm just another normal human being. If you saw me on the street, you wouldn't know I'm a musician. I'm worried about the same thing. I'm behind on laundry. I need to file my taxes, and I'm hungry. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. Oh, I've seen it. Oh, she's incredible. Oh, I love her. I love her. Yeah. So is that your answer?
That's my answer.
Okay. Great.
What spicy food can I eat next?
Yeah. So beyond this conversation, what is the best way for my viewers and listeners to stay connected with you? Is it through Instagram? Because I tried to look for you through like website, but I couldn't find it. So I think it's the Instagram.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Instagram, my handle. I'm a millennial through and through. So shoot me a DM. Sound Liberator.
Sound Liberator. All right. Sounds good. Before I let you go, we have one more thing, and that's the rapid fire questions. Now we take this segment very seriously. You've shared your stories and expertise today, but these questions, carefully curated by our team, which is me, will give our listeners a glimpse into who you truly are. So I want you to answer each question with the shortest response as possible. No explanation is necessary, okay? Number 1, what is your comfort food?
The Thai noodles. The Thai noodles are the best noodles.
How do you like your coffee in the morning?
Black, blackity black.
All right. That's good. Cats or dogs?
Cats, even though I'm allergic.
Sunrise or sunset?
Dusk.
Beautiful. Summer or winter?
Summer.
Now, what skill have you always wanted to learn but haven't had a chance to?
Swimming.
Oh, you're in Hawaii, so that's great. You can swim every morning. What is your word or words to live by?
Aloha.
Cute. Favorite venue you have ever performed in, or maybe a dream venue?
The Dubai Opera House.
What is the most important quality you look for in other people?
Integrity, empathy.
Name a composer you wish more people knew about.
Yukimi Song.
No.
All of the listeners start harassing us with these scores. We're going to make it happen.
Oh, my God.
Come together. Rise up, people.
I did not expect that. Okay. I better do something. All right. Name one piece in your current playlist.
Always down to listen to Kendrick.
If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Chill.
Good one. Last one. Fill in the blank. Music is blank.
Beautiful.
That's perfect. Joe, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your artistry, your vision, and the depth of your work with us. And it has been a real pleasure having you on the show. And to our listeners, I encourage you to explore Joe's work, his performances, compositions, and ongoing projects that continue to expand the landscape of classical music. The best way to stay connected is through his Instagram account at Sound Liberator. And you can also find more in the links in our show notes. And to everyone listening, thank you for spending this time with us. If this conversation resonates with you, please like, comment, and tag us at The Piano Pod. Thanks for listening or watching. We will see you next time on The Piano Pod. Thank you, Joe, so much.
Mahalo.